Welcome to another episode of Stories from the Edge of Life. We have another very special guest today, Dr. Nagesh Simha. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
Would you mind
Lovely to be
introducing?
here.
Thank you. The pleasure is all mine. Pleasure and honor. Would you mind introducing yourself to our audience, please?
Yes. Thank you for that. My name is Nagesh Simha. I basically am, or rather was, a general surgeon till I retired on health grounds. I was born and brought up in Mumbai. I had my entire education, both pre-medical and medical education. Qualified as a surgeon, and then I moved to the garden city of Bengaluru in 1981 December. I remember, I think, from a very, very young age, probably the age of 3 or something, that I wanted to be a surgeon, not a doctor. And I was told by my mother that I used to take her hairpin, which in those days used to be metal, and I'd poke my grandmother, my father's mother, saying injection, injection. So I was very fortunate that I was able to get a admission to a medical school, and then of course I moved to Bangalore. I have a younger brother and a younger sister. My wife Jayashree is an anesthesiologist, and I have two sons. Both happen to be in the US. The elder boy is in New York City, works for Google, and the younger boy, who's 9 years younger to the elder one, lives in Seattle. What happened was that I fell sick, sometime in 2001 with chronic renal failure. And then, of course, all the fun began. That from 2002 January to 2006 November was very turbulent. I had not one, not two. I had three renal transplants. I had a massive leak from the second transplant, which made them open me up 3 times in 7 days. That got sorted out. I developed avascular necrosis. They tried core decompression, didn't work. And then I had bilateral hip replacement. And finally, I had the third transplant in November of 2006. So in a couple of days' time, it's going to be 17 years. After my third transplant, my physicians, nephrologists all felt that it was perhaps not safe for me to continue to operate, to practice as a surgeon. So I retired. So that was basically what happened. How I got into palliative care, I think, would probably be the next question that you might want to ask. But I will let you ask that question.
Thank you, and thanks for sharing the information about your professional background and your personal experience. And I'm Parag Bharadwaj. I'm a hospice and palliative medicine physician, and yes, let's proceed with the firing of questions to you.
Sure.
Now, so before I come to how you got into palliative care, while you were working as a surgeon, did you ever hear about palliative care? When was the first time you actually heard of it and the concept?
Well, I was gloriously ignorant about it. Okay, like most of us doctors are. I came to understand or know about palliative care. I would say sometime in 1987, 88, when I had joined a local Rotary Club in Bangalore, Bangalore Indiranagar, and sometime I think in probably 1986, a fellow Rotarian friend of mine called me up one day and said that his senior and his senior's friend had set up the local chapter of the Indian Cancer Society, and they wanted to meet me thinking that I might have some ideas on how they could increase their activities. So my wife doesn't like it, but the four of us met at a local club where we sat down over a couple of mugs of beer. So I always say that my involvement in palliative care started with a mug of beer, and I did give some suggestions to them, which they I think followed. I got onto the board of the Indian Cancer Society, and one of the two gentlemen, who met me, Kishore S. Rao, he had this bee in his bonnet that he wanted to set up a cancer hospice in Bangalore. He was on the governing council of the regional cancer hospital, and he had seen that many of the patients would come with advanced malignancy, or they have treatment, but it would not work. And the hospital just said, go home. And where do they go? So this was his dream. So I think the first time I heard about palliative care would have been sometime in the late 1980s.
Great, thanks. So now let's talk about how you got into the field and what drew you
Right.
to it.
So Parag, let me start by saying something that I have been a very, very great believer in, and that is nothing happens by chance. I don't think the word by chance. I met him by chance. I went to the market by chance, and this happened. Uh, I don't think there is such a thing as by chance. I believe that the universe, I use that as a politically correct word. I don't say God, he or she or whatever. That when the universe wants something to happen, he or she, whatever, the universe will bring people together, people who would never have met. So I think in the same light of whatever I said, that as I told you, I met these guys, gave them some ideas. This friend of mine kept having this thought about, wanting to do something, and I kept saying yes. Very good idea. Yeah, Kishore. I think we should do it. We should do it. And one fine day, I walk into the aeroplane from Bombay to Bangalore, and lo and behold, my friend Kishore is sitting next to me. We didn't check in together. I didn't even know that the guy was on the flight, and he kept talking to me about it. Then fast forward, maybe I don't know, 6 months, 1 year later. Uh, every year in Rotary, the president changes. So in 1993, the guy who became president, my very dear friend Gurmeet Randhawa, he kept talking to me that he wanted that our Rotary Club take on a permanent, big project involving all the members of the club. And so it occurred to me that why not Indian Cancer Society and Rotary Bangalore Indiranagar join hands and work together for the cancer hospice. So I mooted this idea with the Cancer Society committee. There were 3 or 4 people who either were Rotarians or knew very much about Rotary, and they were very happy with that. And then I spoke to Gurmeet, made him understand what it was, and then the two organizations, Rotary Bangalore Indiranagar and Indian Cancer Society, they had a series of meetings, and that led to the creation of the Bangalore Hospice Trust, which then established the cancer hospice in Bangalore called Karunashraya. Karuna is compassion, and Ashraya is home. So that's the name of the cancer hospice in Bangalore. So that's how I became involved in that. I became a trustee. In fact, I was the first chairman of the board. And although every 2 years we're supposed to, re-elect Kishore as managing trustee and I as chairman, we continued like that for 18 long years. Till, of course, we thought we needed to have a change. So I got into palliative care as such, but I had no idea about what palliative care was. And again, I mean, I don't want to go on and on and on, but again, the universe decided uh, a very senior Roman Catholic nun from a hospice in London and another nurse working in Australia. The two of them literally chewed my brains one day in the hospice, saying, "Why don't you do the Cardiff diploma? Why did you do the Cardiff diploma?" And to cut a long story short, I did. I applied and I got selected and I did very well. But just as I was finishing, I was detected with chronic renal failure. And that's another story altogether. So that's how I actually, that was my first introduction to palliative care and to hospice care. In India, unlike in the US, when you refer to a hospice, you refer to a service. But in India, we follow the British model. A hospice is referred to kind of as a structure where palliative care is offered.
Thanks for clarifying that. And so when you did the course in Cardiff, were there some distinct things that you learned that, sometimes you don't know what you don't know, right? And
Oh,
so,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
So can you just highlight some of the things that were really
Yeah.
distinct that you
So,
were not aware of?
so first of all, Parag, I must say that this was not a full-time course that I needed to go to Cardiff. It was a distance learning program. We had to go for a contact session, and then they used to send us assignments. It was years ago, more than 20 years back. So although we would do our assignments and email them, but we'd get little audio cassettes, and it would come by snail mail. It would literally land up in my house in Bangalore. So when I went through the assignments, I did realize that as a surgeon, not only the Cardiff, prior to that, thanks to my mentor in Nimhans, I did, did a major course in communication skills with Professor Peter Maguire, who was in Manchester, one of the founding fathers of communication skills. And when I went there, and initially, because I had not, my colleague Gurmeet and I had not done the basic course, so they ran a 2-day course only for two of us. It was almost like a private course. And the first role play was a surgeon talking to a patient. And Parag, I was at my pompous, arrogant best, like all surgeons are. And then when I got the feedback, I felt so damn miserable that I very quickly realized, I said, hey, this is where I make a mistake. So I think I learned that as a surgeon, I will not blame others. I was very pompous. I was very judgmental. I was kind of, in a way, condescending. This is what you need to do. I know better than you do. Without realizing that, I was doing all that. And I also realized that there were a lot of stuff, medications that are used for some other indications, but in palliative care, like for example, haloperidol in nausea and vomiting. And imagine telling a general surgeon that in case of a malignant inoperable intestinal obstruction, that many times you don't need an NG tube, and many times you can do without intravenous fluids. That you can use morphine to reduce the motility. And you can use haloperidol to reduce vomiting, and the rest of the stuff which you normally do. As a general surgeon, I would have probably got convulsions. I said, "What the hell are you guys talking about?" So I think I learned a lot of the other things. In fact, I always tell people that if you want to learn palliative medicine, then you have to forget a lot of things that you learned in medical school and relearn that.
Thank you for being so candid. I do get the sense that you're probably not giving yourself enough credit, because yes, you were a surgeon, but at the same time, you you did apply for the course, you did take the course. I mean, you were open to the idea of learning new things, and I think that says something about who you are. Uh, the other thing I want to just make sure I don't forget asking you is, there is actually a trend uh, that is that's building up in everything that you're sharing, and that is you're a great leader. People approach you, they run ideas by you, they want you to serve on the board, head the board. So yes, you identify yourself as a physician, a surgeon, palliative care physician, but there is that other aspect to you, which I think is often underplayed by you in my previous conversations with you. So let me share with the audience a little bit what I'm talking about. So you served as the leader of the Indian Association of Palliative Care. You served, I don't recall how many terms, uh,
2 terms, 6 years, 3 into 2.
which I'm assuming doesn't happen too often.
Well, we've had the current president is doing her second term too, Sushma
Okay.
Bhatnagar, who is from Paliative. Yes,
Right,
it's
right.
not very common.
And during that tenure, I think there was a big change in the way I think there were some laws that were passed in India.
Yes, yes. Laws were
And
amended. Yes,
yes,
absolutely.
so could you please enlighten our audience as to what really transpired? And I come from India as well. I know that must have not been an easy easy thing to have accomplished.
Well, it's still work in progress, Parag, and very frustrating. Okay, but I will tell you that the Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Act (NDPS) was created sometime in the mid '80s, and it was primarily to police misuse of opioids and other narcotics. And at that time, if I needed to source morphine tablets, for example, for my patients, then I had to get 6 licenses. And by the time I waded through bureaucracy and the rest of the stuff and probably reached the third license, the first license would have expired, time bound sort of thing. So again, as I said, I won't say by chance, but the university decided, a very dear friend of mine who's in the pharma industry was working on this particular thing, a guy called Devesh Malladi. Google found out that there is this guy called Srinagesh Simha, who's president of the IAPC, got in touch with me. And he talked to me later on. And he said he was shocked. He thought that he'd have to spend time, convincing me. I said, tell me what you want. And we worked together. And, it was a Herculean task. I mean, I can go on and on for hours, but, how things fell into place. When there was resistance, we found the way out. We had the necessary connections. Funnily, narcotics come under the finance ministry because the good old or the olden days, opioids were a source of revenue, during the British days. So the chief bureaucrat in charge of the revenue department happened to be a very close family friend of another very senior palliative care, worker in Delhi, Harmala Gupta, who runs Can Support. And so when she came to know that he was there, she went to his house and gave him a mouthful and said, you know what? Oh, what are you guys doing? And then that led one thing to another, to another, to another. And we were able to get the narcotic drugs, bill, the amendments passed. It was so close that I was sitting in Bombay, and it had been passed by the lower house, the Lok Sabha, which is like the House of Representatives, and it had to be passed by the Rajya Sabha, just like the Senate. And just prior to that, whenever it would come up for hearing, there was a political upheaval about separating Andhra Pradesh into two, and these guys from Andhra Pradesh would prevent the parliament from functioning. Anyway, they managed to pass it in the lower house, and I was sitting in my friend's house in Bombay, put on the TV, Now, this happens to be the last session on the last day of the current parliament. And if it didn't get passed, government would change and they would have to bring the bill back again to the lower house. And here I am sitting down, and all of a sudden, Sushma Swaraj, may her soul rest in peace, talked about it, and everybody said, yes, 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 very good, very good. And by voice vote, it was passed. And then, they sing Vande Mataram, which is the last, the national song. And I am just staring at the television and saying, oh, bloody hell, it has passed. But that was, in a way, short-lived happiness, because things are better. Things are much better. But on the ground, at the grassroots level, there still is some sort of resistance, particularly in the border states where there has been a lot of smuggling of opioids, etc. But that was, I think, a really, really big achievement that I had. I was fortunate enough to be president at that point of time. Yes, I did give support to people who needed it. There were some guys, in my organization who were, trying to rumble, but then I just told them, get lost. I've taken a decision. We'll talk about it later. And I think now everybody's happy that we did what we did.
Yeah, so India is a country of more than 1 billion people. Can you share with us, in terms of, for the sake of our audience who are outside India, what that really meant for the field of palliative care and for access of opioids to patients?
Oh my God. It has made an enormous difference. It's a very, very earth-shattering, path-breaking amendment to the law. Now, funnily, there are certain states which have not understood that, for example, I'll just I don't want to go into too many details, but 6 licenses, all this were abolished. There was a single window clearance. The revenue department, which was handling it, they were told you have nothing to do with it. The Department of Health and Family Welfare of each state was given the authority. The chief drug controller was given the authority. There was no such thing as a license. You had to, initially you had to take a license. So the license concept was thrown out of the window. Then they created a group called END, Essential Narcotic Drugs, with 6 commonly used narcotics. Not all of them available in India, but whatever, which included morphine, fentanyl, oxycodone, hydrocodone, codeine, and methadone. Okay, so in the case of these things, there was no quota. I could order as long as I proved that I had actually used it. I could send these narcotics to a patient with some family member coming and carrying it with him. He could travel by bus, he could travel by train, as long as there was documentation, sealed covers. I can courier it to somebody, which was unheard of before. And I don't need, if I need more, I thought I needed X amount of thing, but the number of admissions were much more. I don't need to go back to the drug controller and say, hey, I need your permission. No, permission is automatically assumed. But I need to inform him that I have finished my stock, etc. So in my state of Karnataka, it's been made so much easier. When casting modesty aside, the state drug controller, I had to tell him one day, I said, in a very affectionate way, I told him the problem with you is you don't know how powerful you are. So when any other hospital has a question to ask, it goes through the grapevine that the guy who was quarreled the most with the drug controller of our state is this guy, Srinagesh Simha, and they call me, my chief pharmacist one day told our admin guys, he said, please tell Dr. Simha, he's gone and fired the hell out of those guys. I'm worried that when I go next for some work, they may take it out on me. But it's never happened that way. They're all good people, So I think this law is, it can be better. It can be implemented better in most many more parts of the country, but it's made a very big difference.
Yeah, so it seems like once this bill was passed, millions of patients were able to get access to opioids, which they didn't earlier.
I would say that whether they actually got access or not is a different thing. They it made it easier for them to get access, no doubt about it. And of course, the number of people who got access also was more. But uh, also, what happens is that the law may allow me to have access, but unless I have people who know how to prescribe it, they know the indications of that, then it will not work. So that's only part of the story. So I would not like to take credit and say all of a sudden, oh, millions of people said, oh, wow, but it has made a difference. There's no doubt about that. And I'm very,
Right.
very grateful that I was given the opportunity to be part of this major change.
Right. And the thing is, for those who wanted to prescribe, now they have access to it. So that's a huge.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
So you,
No
you
doubt.
do a lot of different things. So are you still involved with Karunashraya? And tell us about your activities with Karunashraya. I think
Yes,
right before the interview, you mentioned something about an expansion.
yes. So, I am one of the founders of Karunashraya, the hospice. I was chairman for 18 years, but I also held the position of quote unquote medical director. So I always joke with my colleagues that I'm the event manager. The, the hard work is done by others. So we have expanded from initial 55 to 73 beds in Bangalore. We are going to inaugurate a 110 bed facility in the state of Odisha, city of Bhubaneswar. Now that's another story. Perhaps we may not have too much of time to talk about it because we've just got a little less than 8 minutes. But a gentleman who had worked with us from Odisha made millions selling his software company with others and has funded Karunashraya 2 and also a cancer hospital in Bhubaneswar. So that's what we're going to do. We have set up a separate education and research arm called Karunashraya Institute for Palliative Care Education and Research. I've got a wonderful team. We are a PhD center of the Manipal Academy of Higher Education, that's Manipal University. We are doing a lot of work with international universities, Cardiff, Lancaster, Hull. We have a major counseling course, 6 months counseling course, which is primarily online but with contact session for psychology students, recognized by Kasturba Medical College, so they get recognition. And so we're doing a lot of other stuff, which is going to become stronger and stronger as the days go by. And we are looking to expand a few more places. Maybe in the next 5 years, we want to have another 2 or 3 Karunashrayas in the country. We're looking currently at the Northeast at the moment.
You have a lot of energy. Yeah, you mentioned, when did you retire, sir?
When do I? Well,
No,
I'm
no,
70.
you said you retired, right?
No,
But
I haven't retired.
but I think you said you retired from surgery,
Oh, I
right?
retired from surgical practice 10
Yeah,
years, 11.
but look at all the things you've done since
Yeah,
then.
because they they didn't
Yeah.
allow me on health grounds. But I'm not too young. I'm 70. I turned 70 in June. I tell my youngsters, who are looking out for the place, I think it's about time. And then once two of them came, both of them walked into my room and literally started screaming at me. This is, don't threaten that you're going to retire. Okay, you talk once more, we will also go out. Okay, that's their affection for me. God is great.
Fantastic. And I'm glad we connected, and I'm glad to learn that you're doing well from perspective of your health that you mentioned. It's been 17 years, or almost 17 years, and you have attained great milestones, both personally and professionally. I would like to have you back and talk a little bit more about, your perspectives. I thought you were very candid about how, you used to look at things as a surgeon, and once you took the course, how your perspective about yourself changed, and I'm sure you've learned a lot more, considering that you have your own hospice, and then your personal experience as well. So I would love to pick your brain on certain aspects of that dimension to you.
Sure. We'll get back on the next Zoom. Yeah.
All
Sure.
right. Thank you very much.
Take care. Catch you.